Hey everyone, welcome to this special Beyond the Building series, BTB at PTP. We are here at Polishing the Pulpit in Sevierville, Tennessee, and we thought it would be a great opportunity while we have so many amazing speakers here to have some of them come on the show and encourage all of us to go beyond the building in our evangelism. We want to take the time to thank PTP for giving us the time and space to give you the best content possible, all the people involved in the recording process, and of course, the many guests who came on the show to build us up. And now, on to the video. Welcome to another episode of BTB at PTP. We are here with Rob Whitacre. Rob works with House to House, and he's going to discuss a little bit with us his program Word on the Street and how that can apply really towards mainly younger people, but really anybody wishing to share the gospel. So Rob, tell us a little bit maybe about yourself and
Sure.
Also about Word on the Street.
Well, thank you, TJ. I'm glad to be here.
Yes.
We have the ability to project out into churches of Christ and to experiment, if you will. Like it's a laboratory. Like, you know, you look at all the churches, there's roughly, 9,000, 10,000 churches of Christ. And we're able to go into these churches and to try different approaches. Before we mass produce it, we want to pilot it. So I started the School of Evangelism in 2018, house to house, heart to heart. We've gone to 400 churches. We're working with tens of thousands of church members. There are some things we know work. They've worked for 2,000 years. So, basic Bible study, obviously, we're using like back to the Bible, believe the Bible, does it matter? We know these studies work. So we don't have to test that, right? Yeah. But our culture's changing. And as our culture changes, we have, people immigrating from all over the country. We don't have to debate immigration to understand, hey, these people are here and they need the gospel. And we also have generational changes, right? So for many years, primarily, our country was focused on the baby boomers. And let me explain why. Because they're boomers, meaning they encompass a very large percentage of the population. Yeah. So, for example, corporations and businesses obviously are going to market to them because they got the money and they got the numbers. Yeah. That is changing rapidly. All right, we're watching the sunset, right? New generations are starting to, to take hold. So, the 17 to 28-year-old, range, the Zoomers, Generation Z. Okay, so that's a generation that is quickly rising and has a place in society. How are we going to reach them with the gospel? Yeah. So we understand that millennials were a very difficult generation to reach. In many ways, they rejected just about everything their parents taught them. They rejected church, they rejected the Bible, they were kind of drugged to church, and now they don't want to go to church. Yeah. But their children now, right? Generation Z has come to a position again of prominence. Now, how do we reach them? So recently we went to Maryland. We did what we call an American Mission Campaign. We're looking at Waldorf Church of Christ, La Plata Church of Christ. We actually have one of our regional trainers. His name is Eric Sykes, who works up there. And so we put this big campaign together. And I wanted to work with Generation Z. So I called Justin Rogers and Rick Brumback from Fried-Hardman. Obviously, that is a melting ground for Generation Z. They come from all over the country. They come to Fried-Hardman University. And I said, I would like to work with Fried-Hardman. I've been wanting to do this for years. And so we finally came up with a way that we could provide training and utilize those students. And Justin said, I'll send you students. Yeah. So his name's Tucker Cates. He was a student liaison. Tucker is a very evangelistic young man. Man, I thoroughly enjoyed talking to him. Yeah. Every time I met with him on the phone, it was like, man, he's got a heart for souls. This is probably a poor commentary on me. I was surprised. Because I had this preconceived idea that Generation Z is, hopeless. In fact, I was kind of the persuasion that, I don't know what we're going to do because the millennials rejected it. I don't think it's going to get better with Generation Z. So we're in trouble. Yeah. But the attitude that he projected, right? The focus that he projected was completely 180 degrees different than I expected. Yeah. And so I'm enjoying working with him. And he says, Rob, I got 10 students, I got 15 students, I got 20 students. So he said, I got a group. So they get the shuttle, they come up to Maryland, and I'm thinking, okay, so we're going to do our traditional evangelistic approaches. We're going to use prayer, very effective. We're going to use some benevolent outreach, again, can be very effective. But is there something like specific for Generation Z? And I was thinking, Kyle Butt, I said, can you send me Bibles, like apologetic press Bibles? He said, how many do you want? I said, I don't know, hundreds of them. He said, sure, I'll send them. If you're going to use them in this country to seek and save the lost, we'll send you whatever you want.
Yeah.
So I took the Bibles up there, and I wasn't really sure how this would work. But I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to put Bibles in their hands, and I'm going to send them out to pass out Bibles. And things kind of just developed. So I'm sitting there with them, and I said, hey, guys, where do y'all hang out? And it's like, well, Chick-fil-A, Starbucks, cafes, coffee shops, sure. Libraries, community centers. Am I hitting the places?
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So when I walk into those places, sometimes I'll see them with their earpods on. They got their book, they're studying, or they're listening to the music, kind of zoned out. They don't even know you're there, right? I said, I want you to go to those places. I want you to in some way interact, engage, conversation. This won't be hard. Like, hey, I'm from Tennessee. I'm up here, we're up here near D.C., and just see what happens. Once you engage them, I want you to have that Bible, the AP Study Bible, and I want you to ask them one question. This was my pilot. This is the experiment. Do you own a Bible?
Yeah. Okay,
so let's just look at the generations. Okay, baby boomers have 20 Bibles. Generation X, that's me, we have 10 Bibles. Millennials have 5 Bibles. In other words, we have Bibles. Does Generation Z have Bible? Now, I know they have Bibles on their phones.
Yeah.
Okay, they've downloaded the Bible. Do they have a printed Bible? Okay, they don't have them. What we found out is a lot of Generation Z do not. So how much money do we spend like in India printing Bibles and giving them out?
Yeah.
I mean, we go all over the world passing out Bibles. We have a generation in our country, they don't have Bibles. Yeah. And I said, all right, I want you to ask them whether you like one. It's free. Just about every one of them said yes.
Yeah.
Like, we would like Bibles. So after we hand them the Bible, so now this is just basic Christianity, right? Hey, did you ever read your Bible? Is there a book of the Bible you enjoy? Is there a topic? I mean, immediate response would be like, oh, I like the book of Proverbs. Or I like Psalms. Hey, in fact, if I can get your information, maybe I can send you some stuff on that book, or maybe we could do some study together with that book. Yeah. Again, they come back to the church, they walk inside, they're bouncing off the walls, so much energy. Yeah. Mr. Rob, it works. Like, I got this contact, and so we're starting to fill out the contact cards. Can we do this again?
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
We're still going to go door to door, right?
Yeah.
But we're going to spend like a couple hours every day going to, where Generation Z hangs out. We got contacts every single day. We went through all the Bibles. Not only that, we developed those into Bible studies, and we had baptisms. Yeah. In fact, the very first person Tucker met became a baptism. Yeah. And we just praise God. So we learned that Generation Z is approachable. There's a lot of things I learned. Yeah. One thing I learned is we are not hopeless. The Generation Z are not millennials. They are not Generation A. This is a very different generation. In fact, I would suggest it's a clean slate generation. Yeah. Okay? They don't necessarily believe in God, but they don't necessarily not believe in God. Yeah. Okay? They're not pro-church, but they're not against church. They're like, show me. Yeah. Like teach me. Yeah. And so with that, if we can have that, think about this. I don't have to worry about the thief on the cross, TJ. Yeah. They don't even know there's a cross, much less a thief. Yep. You don't have to worry about don't judge. You don't have to worry about all those, former generational arguments used against the church. They don't even know the church. Yeah. And so here we're sitting with people, and if you give me a clean slate and an honest heart, you'll be converted. Yeah. You're going to obey the gospel. And so that's exactly what we did. We walked them through these Bible studies, and we're seeing incredible results. So I'm hopeful because I see energy, I see hope, I see maybe Generation Z is the answer to our prayers because we're losing the Church of Christ. And I said this to a group of recently, all teens, 20, 25 years old. I said, you may be the last generation that sees the Church of Christ in this format, visible, right? We still have a presence in most places. If you don't succeed, if we don't succeed training Generation Z, if you don't succeed in the mission of evangelism, we may never see the Church of Christ in that form again in this country, because we're losing a vast majority of our membership in the baby boom generation.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point of young people being a clean slate, right? I think people my age will see all these people do, videos on YouTube about, oh, these are the arguments, but those aren't people my age.
Yeah.
Those are the millennials. Those are slightly older people, but
right.
young people, it's a completely different demographic.
Very different.
In my experience, and kind of, Rob has been coming and talking with the college age group here at PTP, I kind of realized young people need to see evangelism work. We need to see it work, or else we're not going to believe it works, right? So when we have these,
that's right.
Older members than myself, like you, come and say, hey, we need to evangelize, or the church is going to die off, we're not going to see it like we do today. It gives encouragement, because we see proof that it works, tangible proof. That's why we're passing out Apologetic Express Bibles here at PTP, right? Out in the community. We are doing random acts of kindness cards, right? Little gift cards that you can give out to people, and get those contacts, establish those connections, so that we can see it work. And not all, contacts are failures, right? We tend to assume that, okay, if I don't get the study, it's a failure. That's not the case. It's you play a specific role. You might not be the person to study with them, but you just created a contact, an opportunity for that person to get a study.
It's what Jesus said. Many are called, few are chosen. It's an equation. It's a math equation. Many are called. You go after the many, you get a few. If you go after none, you get none. If you go after a few, you get none. You have to go after many. And we have the ability. Now, how hard is it to walk into a Starbucks or a Chick-fil-A or a Five Guys, or some cafe, and you're seeing somebody and just engage them? What's the worst thing that can happen? Oh, I'm not interested. Okay, I'll go to the next one. Many are called. If I talk to enough people, I'm going to find that person who says, I'd like to know more. And if I find enough of those people, I'm going to find baptisms. It's going to happen. And one more thing about what you said, TJ, success breeds success. Okay, so when I go to these churches, we're training churches all over the country. I always begin my seminar by asking, what's the biggest challenge to evangelism? And I run through the gamut, right? Like materialism and, religious confusion. And I just go, none of that's the biggest reason. It's unbelief. Like our people don't believe it works. So the business community has a mantra they use and among their employees, and it says this: success breeds success. So if your business sees success, if the employees see success, they're more apt to do it. So our members, especially our young people, they haven't seen success. Here's what they've seen. They've seen, all these events. Our youth groups are covered in events. We go from event to event to event. How many of those events revolve around seeking and saving the lost? How many of them revolve around meeting people and trying to set up Bible studies? Almost none of them. But yet, they can be some of the most effective groups. The young people, the Generation Z, can be the most effective evangelists, soul winners we have in the Church of Christ, and we are wasting it on bowling trips. We're wasting it on lock-ins. We're wasting it on basketball. I'm not opposed to those things. Okay, but why aren't we incorporating evangelism into everything our youth groups do? Because they can reach the lost, and that's what I learned. I want to be honest. A year ago, I would have been depressed, and I would have said, "There's no hope. There's no way we're going to carry they cannot carry the water for us." I am completely opposite. So well. Let me tell you what happened. Those 20 Freed Harbin students went back to campus, and they started doing Bible studies on campus because not everybody at Freed Harbin is a Christian. Justin calls me and says, "Rob, they're having baptisms." What happens when you train, this generation and then show them it works? They do it. They do it. And when they start doing it, that's when we start seeing growth. That's when we see things change.
Well, and it's like our faith, right?
Yeah.
We understand that faith requires evidence.
Yep.
If we want to evangelize, it requires evidence that it works.
That's right.
You know, and Jesus gives us the evidence that it works.
That's
right?
right.
But especially like you've been saying, in our community, we need Christians to go out and do, not only for our own walk with God, right? Not only for the people we're sharing the gospel with, but for the people watching us.
That's right.
Right? The young people look up to the older members. The even younger generation than me look up to my generation, right? And they're going to see that. And kind of our final point here is, that before we close out, is you need to get out of your comfort zone.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
If we're stuck inside the church building and we say, we're gonna sign some compassion cards.
Yep.
That's fantastic. I love compassion cards. I think it's a great way to outreach. But where are those cards leading?
That's right.
Are you stopping at the cards, or are we saying, hey, let's follow up with these people? Because if we're not careful, we can use the building as a cover-up. And we can stop at the cards and say, well, we're doing our part.
Yeah.
But we can do more. We can do even more.
You got to engage people. You got to go out. You got to go where the people are. Where are the people? They're not in the church building. Generation Z is not in the church building. They are in Chick-fil-A's. You got to go to where they're at. And I learned also, they're not going to cuss at you. They're not going to there are times in our country where people can be very cruel.
Sure.
They're just, so it's ugly, right?
Yeah.
I haven't experienced that with Generation Z. What I've experienced is at the most they say, yeah, I'm not interested, or I'm busy right now. Yeah. That's like at the most. But there's a sense of politeness that they'll offer you. Yeah. But what they may say, hey, I don't have one, but I appreciate it. And who knows where that leads, right? So what's the first step in evangelism? It's contacts. Yeah. That's the first step. It's probably the most ignored step, but if we don't get contacts, evangelism fails, and this is a way for Generation Z to get contacts and for the church to grow.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll tell you, with the stuff Chick-fil-A has, I'll be there.
Oh,
right?
Yeah,
so you're going to see people there.
Frosted lemonades.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that Rob was always talking about the frosted lemonades.
That's right. They're very good.
So with that, I want to thank Rob for coming on the show and talking with us about evangelism, right?
Sure.
And hopefully encouraging everyone to go beyond the church building.
That's right.
Don't stay within the walls. Go, do. Jesus said, go therefore and make disciples. Go means go.
It doesn't mean come in, it means go out.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Go out and then bring them in.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
With that being said, once again, thank you, Rob,
for
coming on the show. And we hope that you've gained some knowledge on maybe a little bit of a different approach to evangelism and how you can do that beyond the church building. And with that, we will see everyone in the next episode of BTB at PTP. Thy light shall guide me in the narrow way. Precept and promise, law and love combining, till night shall vanish in eternal day.